Catherine McGuinness has created a peer assessment that has turned the entire assessment into a learning process. So here we can see an overall summary of what her assessment looked like. We've got 2 original blog postings about pregnancy in the postpartum period. The students then had to do peer reviews. After that, they learned from the peer reviews. They reworked one of them, incorporating their feedback. They wrote a reflection on peer review itself, and lastly they did a Turnitin report. Now, the other part of this was about their learning is that it was important that students were comfortable with assessing their peers, and this is because it relates to the National Competency Standards for the midwife. So here we can see Competency 13 acts to enhance the professional development of self and others, and 13.2 contributes to and evaluates the learning experience and professional development of others. Here we can see her marking rubric. So it's really important to have structured marking rubrics so that students can actually understand how to mark their peers so that there's a great level of reliability and validity. You can see in here that she uses Bloom's taxonomy to make sure that the students know what they're doing. So for example, for 1 mark, if they identify a women-centered approach, they get the mark. But for them to get 2 marks, they have to make sure it's related to the standards, to the theoretical underpinning and the responsibilities. And so for students it's it's just a matter of making sure that they're meeting the criteria very clearly. Since it was so important in her assessment to make sure that they can actually learn peer review as a skill, she's created a section of her website dedicated just for that. So the first thing she does is she helps them write a constructive peer comment. She talks about what's helpful and unhelpful for a review, and then she gives them specific examples for comments that are helpful and unhelpful. This models for the students what comments they should be giving and teaches them that skill of peer review. She also gives them an overview of how to physically do the blog posting and upload the peer review. And then she also goes into more depth into how to do the peer review. Finally, each student uploads their post anonymously to a blog posting group. So in the group, the students can't be identified, so you see here it's anonymous. And they simply attach their marking criteria and their critique. So as I said earlier, they had to create a reflection after they'd finished doing their peer reviews. And Catherine said that she found that when students reflected on the process, they showed a great understanding of it, and they were actually developing critical thinking skills through doing the peer reviews. They also reflected on their submissions and the other students' perceptions, and that assisted them to look at different aspects they hadn't considered, and how it actually assisted them in between the first assessment and the second assessment. They actually learned something from the feedback. So overall, Catherine has said this was a really helpful process for the students and very engaging.